Hello and welcome to another episode of The Hollows at Noon. This is a conversation with my brother. I'm Liam Noonan, and I'm going to be talking with my brother, Aiden Noonan, about the GOP presidential debate. And then later on in the episode, we're going to talk about the summer of strikes that just happened. We already recorded that part first.
Yeah, that took us a long time. This part is gonna be.
This part is gonna be like a whole.
Should be
30 minutes plus like another 15 minutes. Because I'm recording this on Anchor, and we're only gonna have like 30-minute limits. So I have like 3 pages of notes written down.
I just started taking notes on stuff that I wanted to talk about regarding some of the other comments made in the debate.
So I'm gonna start first. Yeah. Just gonna list my notes off one by one. The first debate needed Trump. Trump would have made the debate
so
entertaining and funny. He would have been like on the ball asking Mike Pence all about why he didn't overturn the election on January 6th.
That were directed at him.
He would interrupt people. He would get the crowd behind him. He would probably like make up nicknames on the spot. Okay. So he would have made it feel like an hour and 30 minutes instead of a full 2 hours.
If he wasn't being funny, he probably made a ton of jokes at his expense.
Each of the candidates had 1 minute to answer questions, which they went over. They talked about Bidenomics, which is like people complaining about inflation and how bad it is right now. It's kind of bad, but it's getting better. They, of course, had to talk about Hunter Biden, fossil fuels, welfare, inflation again. They're mostly men on the stage. Of 7 men, 1 woman. I forgot who said these things, but I wrote down accountant in the White House and toxic regulation.
That was, I think that was first brought up by the female.
Nikki Haley.
Nikki Haley.
I wrote down in all caps, why did DeSantis focus on lockdowns? Vivek Ramaswamy wrote, the climate change agenda is a hoax. They talked about abortion. The governor of South Carolina, I think, talked about his 6-week abortion ban. They talked about Florida's heartbeat ban. Mike Pence.
Heart Week typically starts to show between like 6 and 8 weeks.
Yeah.
So isn't that basically the same thing as the 6-week?
Yeah, they call it ban? The heartbeat ban. Mike Pence said it's not a state issue; it's a moral issue. So it went from being like a federal issue to a state issue, and now it's a moral issue.
It's always been a moral issue. The problem is people couldn't just keep it at a moral issue.
Mm-hmm.
they made it political with Planned Parenthood and the fight for abortion rights ending in Roe v. Wade. Now, it's always been this moral issue because
Mhm.
people want to believe that that there shouldn't be a separation between moral and political problems.
And they talked about adoption rates, which, you know, it, I'm fine with, but it's up to the woman, really,
Yeah,
if they want to go through with the pregnancy and whether or not they want to keep the child as their own or put it up for adoption. Um, they talked about crime. Uh, the left has been saying defund the police for the past 5 years. Not true. Um,
you don't need to defund the police, though. The
we
problem
just
is
need
we
to
just need to redirect what we're funding.
redirect funds and educate
Yeah,
people. Um, the DOJ walked away from Hunter Biden's gun charges. No, they didn't, because
didn't they get him on
now he's indicted because of the federal gun charges.
he get indicted on 4 counts of federal gun charges?
Yeah. Um,
Apparently, there's something about them attempting to prove that Joe Biden was somehow also illegally gained funds from his son's tax evasion.
yeah. All Hunter Biden did was call Joe Biden up on the phone like a couple times just to prove that Joe Biden's his dad. Meanwhile, Eric and Don Jr. were running the Trump organization, which Trump didn't step down from during his presidency. And whenever the White House hosted um, foreign leaders, he would invite them to the Trump Hotel in Washington so that he can make a profit off of it.
Yeah, that is
Um,
clearly gaining illegal funds. It's easy to prove because he's Donald Trump. He probably made a speech about it.
they all were for closing the southern border. Um, Ron DeSantis said that the DA's office was funded by George Soros.
DeSantis is one of the big three politicians I absolutely loathe.
7 out of the 8 politicians rose their hand when they were asked if they would support Donald Trump's reelection campaign. The only one who didn't support, wouldn't support Donald Trump was Governor Hutchinson. He said that Trump might be disqualified under the 14th Amendment, which I agree.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
14th Amendment right to due process.
China, they pretty much all said that we're driving Russia further into China's hands, which doesn't make sense.
Isn't Russia more powerful than China?
Yes.
Sometimes I believe that people want to stay idiots.
Pence wanted us to push Russia out of Ukraine, but Ramaswamy didn't. He wanted to pretty much give Ukraine back to Russia and focus on the southern border.
For those of you that didn't know, apparently Russia's plan, if Ukraine falls, is to go into Poland, which sounds familiar, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Poland is a NATO-aligned country. They invade Poland, Poland declares war, England declares war. France declares war.
Yeah,
Any
guess who?
NATO alliance aligned country is then forced to declare war under the NATO pact.
Guess who invaded Poland 80 years ago and
The man with
lost
the man with the tiny mustache.
badly? Um, they wanted to defund the IRS.
Oh yeah, to fund the people that enforce their taxes. That's fun.
Russell Brand looked weird. We used the Rumble stream, and like after every half an hour, it was the same two
God.
commercials
Over and
over and
over and
over.
over.
It was
Until
one.
they throw in the one about gun safety.
There was one about like buying gold and putting all of your retirement funds into gold,
Because then the government couldn't steal it.
and then the other one was a Rumble ad for. That's an ad for Rumble with Russell Brand, who, if you don't
Man, they
know,
must be kicking themselves in the butt now.
he's kind of like a failed comedian turned political commentator who recently was accused of sexually assaulting 4 women. He kind of looks like he's sexually assaulted women. The long hair and the beard, like
Oh my god, the guy looks like a complete degenerate.
in the early 2000s, he wore like heavy eyeliner. He
Oh, he was an
looked like
emo boy too.
no, he looked like a rock star. Um, who wanted to be emos.
The knockoff version of Kiss.
Yeah, yeah, he just looked weird, but all of the candidates, they wanted to use the government shutdown to fund portions of the wall, which wouldn't work because you would have to go through
People
Congress.
can live under, people can fly over, people can go around.
That too, but you have to go through Congress to get the funding for the wall. And if the government shut down, guess what Congress is doing? Nothing.
Not a dang thing.
Education.
Oh, this would be
Why would they want to eliminate the Department of Education? Is it? I have a theory that they're just being paid for
money.
by these private schools, these private colleges,
most definitely.
just to fund public education.
Which is hilarious because a majority of states like New York primarily rely on public education because most people can't afford to go private.
To go to private schools, to go to private charter schools, no less.
There's also this big thing of socioeconomics, which also plays a role in basically just social economics, where the more marginalized groups I think are getting paid less.
So they don't pay as much in taxes, therefore the government doesn't fund their local schools.
I mean, The school system is flawed,
Mm-hmm.
big time. What a lot of people don't really understand is that when they started introducing the standardized testing a long time ago now. Technically, standardized testing were actually put into law back in the 1900s.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't actually mandated until the No Children Left Behind Act, which established the Common Core,
Yeah.
which 2020 brought into light how majorly flawed that whole system was. Because individual school testing was actually determined based off of school performances on state tests.
Yeah.
So these school systems get 47% of their funding from taxes. The individualized is then, I think, separated by school performance or by state.
Mm-hmm.
Technically, they actually get $19.59 billion for education, which seems like a lot of money, but if you're on a school based testing based
School.
school, then public schools aren't really known for having good test scores.
Mm-hmm.
What Ramaswamy pointed out was how he would point majority of the blame on the teachers union, break the back of the teachers union.
Yeah.
What teachers make $5,800 a year.
58,000 a year.
58 was it 58,000 or
58,000.
That was 5,800.
No.
They spend $500 of that on the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
Which, if it's 500,000, their gross income is 58,000 a year. Then, if you separate that into monthly pay, that's only a couple thousand, which is what you primarily want to look at, because your gross income is how much you made over the year, not how much you made by month.
Which isn't enough.
It's not a lot.
Like rent nowadays,
Oh,
cheapest
in
New York City is like $1,500.
Yeah. That cuts a chunk of their money just for rent.
Mm-hmm.
They spend $500 on the classroom, which is one of the most important parts of
$2,000 for like 1 month.
It's 5,800 divided by 12. That's 9,000 a month.
No. 58,000 divided by 12. $4,833
around there. So do you have to take out rent, take out electricity, take out gas, take out food, taxes?
That's not enough.
That's not enough. So yes, teachers, they've been having problems with the teachers union coming back from COVID because they wanted more money, because they had to do more work at home. But
that's what we get into in the
later.
Second half of this episode.
Ramaswamy was the second person there that I really didn't like.
Who's the third person?
Trump.
No, who was there that you didn't like? The third person.
Ramaswamy, Lizard Man.
DeSantis.
I created nicknames too. I could not remember their names. DeSantis was the lizard man.
Mm-hmm.
Ramaswamy was psycho.
Mm-hmm. And the third
There's
one.
the um there's the big guy that was constantly talking about how he's from a hometown and he had all these hometown values and
Oh yeah, yeah.
what's his name?
Um,
The big dude that
I don't remember, but he's in the compilation that I probably just played. Yeah, he.
didn't really like him. The one that I thought was better than the rest of them
Mm-hmm.
was the female. It's just because she made a nice point about abortion.
Nikki Haley.
Nikki Haley.
Governor Hutchinson, he made a nice-ish point. He said that he wants to bring computer science to every school in the nation.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You know, that's fair. Um,
Problem is funding.
yeah. How are they going to get the
How are they
funding?
going to get the funding? I'll tell you, my high school had 3 computer labs.
Mm-hmm.
2 of them, the computers were awfully old machines.
Yeah, and the third
The
one
3rd one, they
was kind of filled with modern Macs, right?
yeah, they had it updated to Microsoft 10 and all that stuff. Actually,
No, there's 4. We went to the same school.
There's like 3 in one hallway on 2 separate floors.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, one. I actually think they spent a ton of money upgrading the Lenovo's that they had. So there's like 2 that were non-Macs, and then one that was the computer science class, and I think the art design.
Yeah.
Both taught by the same teacher, and business, both taught by the same teacher.
They all commented on Joe Biden's mental acuity, which was a little weird because Joe Biden and Donald Trump
Are 4 years apart.
3 years. Yeah, 3 years apart.
He's 79.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
And Trump said that Biden just recently. He said that Joe Biden was going to start World War II.
I think Trump's sort of starting to go down the drain mentally.
Chris Christie was asked about the UFO. He said, "I get the UFO question." And my last note that I took was again about inflation, and I wrote down inflation. You're supposed to say like Marsha from the Brady Bunch. Marsha. Inflation. Like, what is Joe Biden going to do about inflation when Senator Joe Manchin and Senator Kristen Sinema are just going to block it?
Did they also bring up trans rights in sports?
Nikki Haley said that biological boys do not belong in girls' locker rooms. Tim Scott also said that in his closing remarks, that if you were born a male, you're gonna play with other men. If you're born a woman, you play with other women. But yeah, I'd like to go over some of my favorite quotes real quick because we have about 5 minutes. Um, there was cultural civil war. The
Oh, wait a
George
minute.
the George Soros funded district attorney's bid from Ron DeSantis. The climate change agenda is a hoax. Um, they call President Joe Biden President Open Door.
Screwed, aren't we?
Um, when they were talking, when someone was talking about education, they called it the civil rights issue of our time. That and Chris Christie's I get the UFO question at the end. What was your favorite quote?
I'd probably say the whole Ramaswamy on climate change is a hoax.
he just wanted to be like Trump's vice president pick. Like when all the candidates were asked if they were to support Trump, his hand like shot up.
Well, it's funny, wasn't he basically demeaning Trump like last year
Mm-hmm.
when all this stuff that Trump did was coming to light?
Yeah, he was the first person to raise his hand, and then he asked Mike Pence if
tweet a racial slur.
he would ask Mike Pence if Mike were to join him in supporting Donald Trump. Like, why would Mike Pence support Donald Trump? Especially since
Trump's followers tried to have him killed
yeah,
years ago.
like they were threatening his life. They had the gallows right out front of the Capitol building. They were chanting like "Hang Mike Pence." Why would he support him?
Another thing I wanted to mention was the crime rates.
Just quickly, because we got 2 minutes.
They primarily went for the simple solutions, like blame repeat offenders on the wardens that are failing to keep them in the jail system.
Mm-hmm.
Blame it on police, defund the police. That's not the answer. It's like, what about teen and kid related gun violence? That's technically a crime. That's a whole different thing. That's different thing.
Mm-hmm.
For simple solutions instead of the effective ones, like making it harder for people with horrible mental health to get their hands on guns. People with focus more on retraining.
1 minute left.
And that's basically it.
So I think we got everything actually
Most of it.
in 30 minutes.
We condensed a lot of it to the basic.
But we were just having fun watching the debate.
Oh yeah, no, totally wasn't growing in pain through most of it.
Yeah. Again, Trump, why didn't you show up for the debate?
For someone that hates doing personal interviews, he tends to gravitate towards doing personal interviews.
Yeah. You would have won.
You would have won easily.
Again, the next half of this episode, we're going to go over the union strikes. We'll be right back after this.